Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to the free walking tour of Manchester. My name is Chris Hoyle. I'm your guide for today. Those of you that are not familiar with the Mancunian accent, we do have a habit of speaking quite fast. We get quite enthusiastic, and if you end up talking like one of the Gallagher brothers from Oasis going to me full on Mancunian and you can't understand a word I'm saying, then just wave your hands, okay? And say, Chris, slow down, and I'll try and revert to my finest King's English, I forgot about him, as best as I possibly can. So I'd just like to introduce you to a very good friend of mine, Mr. Alan Turing, sat here on the bench here in Sackville Gardens. So here we are at the Royal Exchange Theatre. The reason why I'm actually a playwright is because I had access to this brilliant building from being such a young boy. Now, we've just come out of the back of the pandemic. The reason why I've ended up doing walking tours to you beautiful people is because the theatre industry is just not a viable industry to work in. Well, I was a bit like Middleton's version of Drew Barrymore, basically, and I started acting at like 10 years old. I'd been in Coronation Street for 2 years. It was all going so well.
You know, for the skiing trip?
Oh, I meant to say, I'm not bothered about going.
What do you mean? Of course you go.
So by the time I was fired from the show at 14 years old, I had lots of independence. I'd grown up really quickly. And because I was shamed through the drug scandal in Coronation Street, I stuck two fingers up to the world, and I was really lucky enough to be able to go to Oldham Theatre Workshop, which was a youth theatre school for working class kids up in Oldham. Being a young little gay kid that didn't fit in, but I really fitted in Oldham Theatre Workshop, so it changed my life. Going to drama school was a massive shock, you know. I was only able to go to drama school because I got a scholarship. It took a while for me to settle when I was in London. There was lots of people there going to the National, watching Henry V at 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. That was their first time going to the theatre. Mine was at the Oldham Coliseum watching Sleeping Beauty, a pantomime. It's an absolute tragedy that the Oldham Coliseum was closed. That was the first theatre I ever went to, and it was closed last year, voted one of the unhappiest places in the country, and yet you're going to close a theatre. I felt the creative scene was much more accessible in Manchester, the theatre scene. It feels like a community. It feels like you're able to make something happen here. The government believe that arts is a privilege, not a necessity, and it's just not so. If we don't have access to brilliant institutions like the Royal Exchange, then we won't be funding and inspiring the next generation of actors, playwrights and directors. It's absolutely essential. Now, the pub that kicked it all off was the New Union opposite. The New Union is actually considered to be the second oldest gay bar in the whole of the country, Vauxhall Tavern being the oldest. The gay village that you see now is not what it was like before 1990. Everything was hidden away behind closed doors. This is gay people being on show for the first time, and people did used to come and sort of stare in to the bar because we'd never seen anything like it before. But this paved the way for the whole gay village and what we know today. Having access to Canal Street and a really special time on the gay scene in Manchester in 1992, things started to change. The scene became really exciting. And I was totally unaware of it. I was totally unaware how revolutionary the gay scene was at that time. I rocked up and on Canal Street and just took it for granted. I thought it'd always been there. So I really felt part of it. And from what I remember, I had an extremely good time. Section 28 in 1988 saw 29,000 people marching through the streets of Manchester to oppose a really damaging legislation by the Thatcher government, which was really damaging for LGBTQ plus people. We took it down.
So here we are in the site of what was known as the Peterloo Massacre. On the 16th of August in the year 1819, over 60,000 people headed to St Peter's Field. This was all just a field right where you're standing, to protest about the lack of democracy that the UK was having at this time. There was a total of 19 confirmed deaths, but there was also between 400 and 600 people incredibly badly injured as a result of the military drawing their sabres. They were slashing people in the crowds as they were fighting their way through to arrest Henry Hunt. So I'll just talk you through the monument itself. So
Manchester has always had a history of mass gatherings. Did Mancunians stay silent in that part of history, in that part of history, in that part of history? No, they didn't. Working people took to the streets to march about things that felt important to them. Whatever you want to protest about at the moment in 2024, there's a lot. There's a lot to take to the streets about, but people can't do it on their own, and we all need to show up for that. What does Manchester mean to me? Well, it's my home. It's where my friends and my family are. But it's also a city that shaped me, who I am as a person, professionally, creatively, and also personally.